Hi, I'm Tim Paskert. Welcome to the Mark829 Bible Study. Relax. It's just God, huh? Relax. In fact, please, when you open up the Bible, the next time you open up the Bible, ask the Lord to fill you with His joy as you realize that He's speaking to you through His Word. It's actually a good thing. God's a good thing. He's not a killjoy. He's the giver of joy. And with that, we're going to continue our study of Ecclesiastes, probably one of the most humorous books in the Bible, because it really compares how the world does things to God's truth and simply says, hey, make a choice. Choose A or B, B, B. The world says B, and God says subtly, choose A. It's a better option. So with that said, have you ever heard somebody telling you a story about something? They're giving you information, they're stating facts, and you go, well, where'd you get that from? And they respond, well, they said it. Well, who's they? Them. Who's them? Well, I don't know, but I do remember it was a reliable source. You ever dealt with that? Because we deal with it every day. Where we pick up in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verses 5 and 7, Solomon, the wisest man this world has ever known, is going to talk about the importance of getting information and advice from reliable sources. Let's hit it. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verses 5 and 7.
It is better for a man to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear the song of fools. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fools. This also is vanity. Surely oppression drives the wise into madness, and a bribe corrupts the heart.
Whoa. Okay, so it's really simple. Reliable sources for counseling, for advice, for anything are critical. It's better to get rebuked, corrected, told, hey, stupid, you're wrong, by someone who is wise in the ways of the Lord than to hear someone who does not know the Lord, does not know His wisdom, tell you, I like your idea, keep going. It's better to hear the rebuke from God and the correction from God than it is all the earth's choir who does not know Him singing together, we like how you're thinking. Don't be silly. Follow the Lord. In fact, he makes this great analogy in the scriptures. Solomon points out, he says, listening to the crowd that doesn't know the Lord, that's encouraging you to keep going, is like deciding to cook a meal and using thorns for the fire. What happens is when you use thorns, they're like kindling. They'll go up real quick and create a big flame, but they won't provide the consistent heat that is needed to cook the meal properly. That's what advice from people that don't know the Lord will do to you. It'll sound good, it'll create a big flame, but in the end, it won't be what's needed to get the job done. Listen to the Lord. And then there's a warning. Solomon compares listening to the world's advice, listening to people that do not know the Lord's advice. He compares it to taking a bribe. And it's actually sort of the pattern that Satan has. Ungodly advice has a pattern to it. And the pattern is very simple. First, there's truth. There's truth in what is said. Then there's a half-truth that follows that truth. Then there's a flat-out lie, bad advice, something that goes completely against God's word. And then there's the fourth element of it, the bribe, the incentive to follow the bad advice. That's the pattern of Satan's lies in this world, and that is the pattern of bad advice from people that don't know the Lord. There's truth, followed by a half-truth, followed by a flat-out lie, often wrapped in great clothing, followed by a bribe, an incentive to believe the lie. Don't take the bait. Listen to good advice. Listen to God's wisdom, and it will go well for you and your children and your children's children. Follow the Lord is what the teacher is telling us. Let's keep going now. Let's pick up verses 8 through 10.
Better is the end of a thing than its beginning, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be not quick in your spirit to become angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools.
Wonderful truth of God. The end of things is better than the beginning. Think about it. When you went to school, when you went to college, or you went to high school, or you went to any school, the last day of class was better than the first day of class. That's godly truth. The end of a project is better than the beginning of the project if you're following godly wisdom. The next thing, and this is so important to understand, change in this world is inevitable. In this world, change will continue to happen. Change is like a dollar bill. Change is neutral. It's how we use change that can make it of godly purpose or a bad purpose. Okay? So don't fight change. Change is absolutely inevitable. Personally, I live in the state of Florida. I thank God every day for air conditioning. This place would be deserted if there wasn't air conditioning. Change is good if you use it for godly purposes. Don't be the person that's constantly fighting change because it's different. Don't be the person that says the old days are better than today. The old days are better than the day. You know you've done it. All of us have done it. Don't do it. Don't do it, because what you're doing is you're holding on to a season that's past instead of embracing a season whose time has come. Change is neutral. Use it for God's glory, God's purpose, and see what He's using this change for in your life, in your family's life, in your neighbor's life, in your country's life. Do what's right in the way of the Lord whenever change occurs. Let's keep going.
Say not, why were the former days better than these? For it is not from wisdom that you ask this. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, an advantage to those who see the sun. For the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it.
I love this. Wisdom. He compares godly wisdom like money. Godly wisdom is the currency of heaven. And different from our currencies in this world, God's wisdom, His currency, doesn't go down in value. It doesn't. His currency lasts forever, and His currency is tax-free. Think of that, huh? Godly wisdom is better than all the riches of this world because it never fails. It maintains its value. It's the best investment you can ever make. Obtain godly wisdom and hold on to it. And then take the wisdom that God has given you and reinvest it. You reinvest godly wisdom by giving it to your friends, giving it to your family, giving it to your neighbors, giving it away as freely as you have received it. Let's go on.
Consider the work of God, who can make straight what He has made crooked. In the day of prosperity be joyful, and in the day of adversity consider. God has made the one as well as the other, so that man may not find out anything that will be after him.
If you can embrace this truth, will you have a lot of peace. And here's the truth. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Nobody. Nobody. And God, in His wisdom, provides both good times and hard times. He gives us both good, and He allows hard times to come. They're both from His hand, and no one, absolutely no one, knows what's coming next. That's why the godly person, the person who is seeking God each day, who's trying to follow Him, has this incredible peace about them. Because we know we don't control tomorrow. I don't even control what I'm having for lunch. Okay? Don't. But we can control who we place our trust in. We can control where our mind goes when bad things come. We can control where our mind goes when good things come. They should go to thanking the Lord and trusting Him. And we reveal our trust in Him by being anxious for nothing, but in everything, with great thanksgiving, we rejoice as we present our prayers and requests to the Lord. Because we know He hears us, we know we can trust Him, and we know He will turn things for good in their perfect season. Let go. Trust God. It's a much wiser way to walk through this world. Let's continue with Ecclesiastes 7 with verse 15 all by itself.
In my vain life I have seen everything. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in his evildoing.
He's calling it out. Solomon is literally saying, this is what it looks like in this world. This is a picture of this world. He's literally saying, I have seen this. It's an eyewitness report. I have seen a righteous person suffering because they were righteous, and I've seen a wicked person being rewarded in this world for being wicked. Fact, it happens. That's reality. Anyone who thinks that the Bible is not reality has never read it. That's reality. Put us right in the face. But God knows about it. The best example, His own Son. His own Son, Jesus the Messiah, the Son of Man, who came to take away the sins of the world, lived a righteous life, always followed the commandments, was filled with joys, filled with love. He healed people, everyone. He didn't care. He healed them. Yet He was crucified, publicly murdered on a cross. That's what Solomon is witnessing to. Solomon says that's going to happen. That's going to happen in this world. But don't despair. Because as Jesus showed us, and Solomon was trying to explain, God will overcome this world. And when Jesus rose from the dead 3 days after the crucifixion, He revealed Solomon's truth. Hey, the righteous will suffer in this world, but God will lift us up and we will overcome. And we will live for eternity with Him in the next. Verses 16 through 18.
Be not overly righteous, and do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Be not overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time? It is good that you should take hold of this, and from that withhold not your hand, for the one who fears God shall come out from both of them.
Avoid extremism. This is written about 3,000 years ago. Listen to Solomon. Avoid extremism. Okay? Don't be overly righteous. An example of an overly righteous person is basically, I'm going to use a real biblical quotations, biblical term here. A person who's overly righteous, they're religious jerks. That's the Southern translation. They're religious jerks. These are legalistic religious jerks. Solomon's saying, don't be like that. And at the same time, he's saying, don't be overly wicked. There's so many examples of overly wicked, I don't need to give them. Just turn on the TV, go online. It's all out there, okay? Someone who is openly pursuing wickedness as defined by the Lord, that's wicked. He's saying, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be overly wicked. Moderation. Okay? The person who is righteous in God's sight is simply the person that remembers the most important commandment is love thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, and all thy strength. That's the righteous person. You don't worry about being perfect. You're just concerned with walking in love towards God and everyone else, because that's the second most important commandment. Love thy neighbor as thyself. That's beautiful. That's wisdom in God's sight. It doesn't have a lot to do with rules and regulations. It's all based on love. Moderation. Don't try to be a religious zealot. You can't do it, and you end up making yourself and everyone else miserable. Follow God through love. The more you love God, the more you're able to give away His love to everyone else. 19 through 20.
Wisdom gives strength to the wise man more than 10 rulers who are in a city. Surely there is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins.
This is right back to what the Lord, what Solomon was talking about the Lord's wisdom. It's more valuable than money, and it's more valuable than the counsel of even the wisest people by the earth, by this world's standards. Nothing can beat God's wisdom, God's ways in this world. God will never lie to you. He will never cheat you, and He will never advise you to do something that's not in your best interest. Listen to Him. And by the way, a lot of things that are in our best interest are to be loving, Be loving, be joyful. That helps. Makes us more fun to be around. That's wisdom from God. He tells us to avoid, you know why God hates sin? It's really simple. You know why He hates sin? Because it kills His children. That's why He hates sin. Follow His advice. It's better than the 10 smartest people in this world that do not know the Lord, and they may be celebrated as true geniuses, but if they don't know the Lord, they're going to tell you a truth, a half-truth, a flat-out wrong lie. Even if they don't realize it's a lie, they're going to tell it to you, and then they're going to give you an incentive to believe the lie. Don't waste time with that. Stay with the Lord. Follow His ways, and you will find the wisdom you need that's more valuable than the currency of this world to make a good decision today. Let's keep going. Verses 21 through 22.
Do not take to heart all the things that people say, lest you hear your servant cursing you. Your heart knows that many times you yourself have cursed others.
I love these verses. They're so true. Okay, first off, don't listen to all the haters out there. There was a great song, Haters Gotta Hate. Don't listen to the haters. Ignore it. And by the way, don't become self-righteous as you're ignoring it, because you know as well as I do that all of us say things about people that we shouldn't. I can watch something on TV, see a 5-second snippet of a story and become very judgmental very quickly. The Lord say, knock that off. Knock it off. Okay? Don't listen to haters, and don't be a hater. Don't be a hater. Simply love what's good, noble, and true, and hang on to that, and encourage other people to find what is good, noble, and true. Let's keep going.
All this I have tested by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. That which has been is far off and deep, very deep. Who can find it out?
Okay, this is to the people that have great intellectual skills, and I confess I am not one of them. If you listen to me a lot, you realize I stumble over words. Grew up with a speech impediment. Don't apologize for it. That's just how the good Lord made me. I also praise God that I am not an intellectual genius. I'm not. In fact, I'm sort of Captain Obvious. I see what the Lord says. I embrace it. I try to live it. This is really simple. You're never going to have all the answers. You're not. You're not. The greatest answer that I give people, the one that gives me the most peace when someone asks me a very specific question about the Scriptures, I have great peace when I give this answer. I don't know. It's so freeing. I don't have all the answers, and I don't worry about having all the answers. It's biblical. I have the answers I need to make the next right decision today. And that's what the Lord wants you to be concerned about. Always continue to learn. Always continuing to learn will really make you a happy person. It really will. But there's a difference between learning and being committed to continue to learn than being committed to having all the answers. The attitude of continuing to learn and the attitude that I must have all the answers never intersect. Because once you think you have all the answers, you quit learning. Don't waste your time trying to do the impossible. You're never going to have all the answers, but you know what? We know who does. God, and we can trust Him. Verses 25 through 28.
I turn my heart to know and to search out and to seek wisdom and the scheme of things, and to know the wickedness of folly and the foolishness that is madness. And I find something more bitter than death, the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and whose hands are fetters. He who pleases God escapes her, but the sinner is taken by her. Behold, this is what I found, says the preacher, while adding one thing to another to find the scheme of things, which my soul has sought repeatedly, but I have not found. One man among 1,000 I found, but a woman among all these I have not found.
This is one of the most misunderstood scriptures and also one of the funniest scriptures. If you can embrace this, you can see the humor of God and also the humor of Solomon. Okay? Remember, this guy was the teacher of Israel, most prestigious educational position in the country. He was the son of King David. He had prestige. And he was the king of Jerusalem. He had power. He had all three of those things. And he had decided to basically conduct an experiment where instead of living by God's wisdom, which never left him, he always knew the difference between right and wrong. He decided to live in the ways of the world instead of abiding by God's ways. And by the way, God's ways say one wife at a time. One wife at a time. But the world's ways, particularly back then, if you were a king, bring it on. You could have as many wives as you wanted. You could have concubines. You could do it all. In fact, back then when Solomon was living, the people that did not know the Lord said the more wives and concubines the king has, the more powerful he is. Think of that. Now it's interesting. Solomon is confessing, don't make my mistakes. Because the Bible records that Solomon had 700 wives. 700 wives and 300 concubines. That is absolutely not from God. And that's why Solomon says, there's not a good wife among them. Out of 1,000 women, I have not found a single good woman. That's not a condemnation of women. That's a condemnation of Solomon's poor choices. He wasn't seeking the one wife that God had picked for him. He was seeking the thousands the world could provide him. Bad juju. Don't do that. Seek the one, the husband or the wife that the Lord has chosen for you. And there are some out there that he's saying, you know what? You won't be like the Apostle Paul. You don't need a spouse. That's okay too. But whatever you do, don't follow Solomon's poor example. Don't live in marriages defined by the world. They're wrong. And they will lead you going, I can't find a good spouse. I can't find him. Why? You're looking in all the wrong places. Let's keep going.
See, this alone I found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes.
Solomon, bottom line's it. Here's what I've discovered. That when God created man, and he created man, okay, mankind, See, women are a kind of man. That's why the word mankind, okay? When he created mankind, we were perfect. Adam and Eve were flawless in their sins. What God created was absolutely perfect. And God's rules, his 10 commandments, they're perfect. They're all based on relationships. The first 4, how to have a great relationship with him. The next 6, how to have a great relationship with your neighbors. That's what God created. But man, we're just like our ancestors. We took the incredible gift that God had given us, this creation. He literally put Adam and Eve over all creation. He said, hey, rule it in my love. Enjoy it. There was no death, there was no hunger, there was no pain. Live, enjoy, no sickness. But they took that. They took the gift because, hey, we're not stupid. We'll take God's blessings. But then they chose to do the one thing that would bring it all down. They chose to eat from that one tree, the proverbial fruit of the knowledge of evil. And God had simply said, don't eat from that tree. Why? Because he knew once we bite into evil, it tastes good. It tastes good to us. And we want more. We got enough apples in this world. We've bitten enough. We've bitten enough. It's time for us to put the apples down and turn back to the Lord. Because this world is filled with evil that will kill us, but for the grace of God. If you've been eating bad fruit for a while, put it down. Just put it down. And turn to the Lord. Just tell him in your own way you're sorry. You're sorry. You blew it. You won't be the first one. You won't be the last person to do that. Tell him you want his ways in your life. Tell him you want his ways in your life. And then get up and walk. Go forward in joy, knowing that you have asked the one who has all the right answers what to do next, and he will show you. See you next time on Mark829.
Get your copy of Tim's book, Secrets to Thriving in Babylon, on Amazon today. And make sure to visit us online at www.mark829.com.